And this young administrator was completely different. He told us we must work, we must serve. At the time, Mr. Speaker, there was this district development committee that was being used to develop the county, the districts. And he redirected us to development at the time that we thought we were going to discuss elections that had caused a lot of tension. The peacemaker in Yusuf Haji, you could see that early. Mr. Speaker, later in 1996, I got to know him more. When after the 1995 trip to Beijing conference, the women of Rift Valley asked me to join Rift Valley Maendeleo and to chair them. I wasn't sure I was going to be able to deal with being in the university and chairing women, because it was the concept of women leadership was not clear in my mind. So I went to Yusuf Haji's office. He was then the PC. And Mr. Speaker, he advised me from day one. One of the words that Senator Murkomen has used is what Yusuf Haji used directly to me. And he said, the first thing, you have come from the university, first things first. Respect for authority cannot be compromised in life. He said, you are coming from a very formal system, a system that has a different order. If you are coming to lead women, and listening is an art in this leadership. At the time, I was not very sure how I was going to discuss, because women squabbling was very high. You would have women from one district complaining over issues of a nature that would disrupt, in fact, the very organization of Maendeleo ya Wanawake. But he did something that was even more unique. He told me to avoid all these things as you are learning, use my boardroom for your meetings. So a young lecturer trying to be a women's leader, leading women who are more experienced in the women's movement, I used this boardroom, and it made a lot of difference. What it did to me, Mr. Speaker, is that Yusuf Haji opened the doors of his office, that I would see him before the meeting and see him after the meeting. At the end of 3 years, I had known the women movement so much that by the time the East African community positions were coming in, every woman in Rift Valley was saying, let's send Professor Kamar to the East African community. That's how I went there. It's because of contributions of such people, contributions of women like Phoebe Asiyo, but it started with how I was mentored and trained by Yusuf Haji. From the time I met Yusuf Haji, I got into a habit of consulting him on many things. In fact, the most recent one, Mr. Speaker, in last year, I called him for advice in 2 occasions. But the one thing that really surprised me is that I called him from Eldoret and I said, I need advice. And he said, where are you? I said, I'm in Eldoret. He said, I'm in Garissa. And he said, when are you coming to Eldoret, to Nairobi? I said, I'll be in Nairobi tomorrow. He said, I'll come the day after, which was on a Monday.
Your time is up. The button, now that you are the one who will be controlling the time. 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I just want to wind up with that one, Mr. Speaker, that he said something that really touched me and it will always touch me forever. He said, where are you? And I said, I'm at home. He said, can I come and see you at home? I said, no, I'm coming to see you. That was amazing, because this is somebody who would go to any length. If you are in a problem or if you are in a situation that you needed him, he would even come to you. May the Lord rest his soul in eternal peace. I sympathize with the family, and on behalf of myself, my family, and the people of Wasingishu and Rift Valley, where he served for a very long time, I want to say Paul to the family. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Silva Kasanga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this chance. Also, to eulogize our colleague and friend, Senator Yusuf Haji. I also want to thank the House leadership, Senator Orengo, for bringing this motion that has given us the opportunity to add, our voices to this. And also, just for the fact that Senator Orengo's submission was so powerful. And without a doubt, I can say then I am very privileged to have rubbed shoulders with the late Senator Yusuf Haji. And I must say, as I count my blessings every morning, I count my blessings that I do rub shoulders with some of the most distinguished gentlemen in this House, and there's always something to learn from our leaders ahead of us. So I want to thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to say from the submissions of the leaders ahead of me, what I had written here then stands true. For me, Senator Haji was the epitome of humility. And without a doubt, from his colorful, distinguished career in public service, I can't believe he walked so gently amongst us, spoke so gently amongst us, and yet he carried all those accolades with him. I can add words like approachable, warm, open, candid, thoughtful, respectful, wise, when I think of the late Senator Haji. My last encounter with him was during the time of the revenue sharing. And he came and he would sit in Senator Mutula's office, which I consider my pit stop. I always stop there for one thing or two. And I found him seated there on his own. And I sat next to him and started just a small conversation with him. He looked quiet. I asked him, Senator, are you okay? He says, I'm okay. I said to him, but you look very, heavy-hearted. What's going on? And he said, this thing is not good. He was referring to the revenue sharing standoff that we had had. And he said, this thing is not good. This thing is not going in the right country, in the right direction. He said, this thing is not in the spirit of BBI. Those were his words. And like Senator Murkomen said, I also asked him, but you are the chair of BBI. You can make this thing go right. And he said, nonetheless, this thing is not going well, but we shall see what to do. Then we went on to have, a small conversation where he wanted to find out a little bit about me. And I told him what I'm doing in the House and what my intentions are and what I do when I'm not in the House. And he said something to me that I'll carry for the rest of my life. He said, in the end, when you take stock of your time in public service, you must be able to stand proud for what you have added to moving this country forward in the right direction. And that touched me so deeply because I could see in him and the way he conducted himself throughout the revenue sharing. He really did stand firm for what was right for his people, and he was ready to die for it like we have had. He went on to encourage me in our conversation, and he said, as a nominated member of parliament, you have been granted a platform to build upon and transform the communities that you represent and the people you serve, and to make the people who brought you here very proud. And he said, don't forget that, and he said, you must aim higher. So for me, that was a whole mentorship session. And like we heard from Senator Dulo earlier today, he has mentored very many. So I have to say, this is the kind of leadership we must emulate. A leadership of gentleness, openness, firmness, knowing that you need to move your country forward. A leadership of mentorship. We hold younger people. We hold their hands and be ready to let them lead when it is their time to lead. Because that's what Senator Haji did. And I think we owe him that kind of respect as we are eulogizing him. The politics of shouting. I watched Senator Haji during the revenue sharing formula. When this House, we had brought it down with shouting and pointing. And he sat quietly the whole time. And there's something about that. Sometimes it is in silence that we resolve issues. And indeed, he has been such a long-serving public servant, resolving a lot of disputes like we have had. It must be because of his gentleness and his silence that he's able to have such wisdom to pursue peaceful methods of dealing with conflict. So I must say we have a lot to learn
Thank you. Senator for Isholo, Senator Dulo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let me take this opportunity to eulogize Senator Yusuf Haji. I'm sure the 5 minutes might not have been enough for me. But let me say a few words about Senator Haji. Senator Yusuf Haji, I came to know him way back when I was married through my late husband. That was way back before I came to the Senate. And truly, Senator Yusuf Haji has kept friends from young and old for many years. He has respect for everybody. We have lost a leader who has respect for authority. Senator Yusuf Haji, I served under him as a vice chair in the last Senate. And in the last Senate, Security Committee had a lot of issues. It's not like now, where we used to have 10 questions on the floor of the House every day. But Senator Yusuf Haji said, since you are young and you are there, I don't have to be in that House to respond to those issues. You should do that. And really that gave me a lot of profile as far as a young politician or a new politician in the House was. And that is how I became a senator for Isiolo, because of the profile that I've made in this House. Senator Yusuf Haji, clearly as a chair, he has a lot of respect for his members. I remember we used to travel with him, and the late Gigi Karaoke. And in that committee, we were with Senator Orengo, Wetangula, and so many other senators. But you will find every morning, because of his discipline, Senator Haji is on the table of breakfast by 7 a.m. And by the evening, he will make sure that he has bought all his members lunch. Dinner. We used to travel so many countries. I remember one time we traveled to Malaysia, then from there we went to Indonesia. They used to crack old men jokes, him and Gigi Karaoke, about elderly women and elderly men. Which means, in as much as he is humble, you will see sometimes he will crack very many funny jokes. And he's a company that you can easily enjoy. Senator Haji has really mentored myself and so many others. And if you can see what happened yesterday, and even before then, actually when he fell sick, he told me he fell in the bathroom. And when he fell in the bathroom, he actually had his bones cracking. And the only person in the house was the wife. When she came running, he told her, don't come near me because you're also going to fall. He told the wife, go and get security so that they can lift me up. So that is how Senator Yusuf Haji is responsible. Even when he was sick in Aga Khan, because of COVID, he never allowed anybody to come and visit him. Because he says, you must take care of yourselves. Madam Speaker, I would request if I can be added 2 minutes, please, if you don't mind. When he recovered and he went back home, I used to visit him with my children. He could sit down, those girls, I have 2 girls, and really talk to them. I know you are mother, I know you are father, you must be this, you must be that. You know, he could actually even sit and say, let me pray for you, because Islamically, a sick person, when he prays for you, the prayers will be answered. That is the kind of person Senator Yusuf Haji is. Yesterday, you will see that his own grandchildren, his own children, you know, unlike some families, people mourn and sit in a room and cry. But in that house, you will see everybody running with a responsibility. The girls, the boys, the grandchildren, and they are the ones who lowered the body of the
Okay, give another 2.
Just 2 minutes. So, Madam Speaker, Senator Haji is a great man. He's somebody that we will never forget. And he's somebody this country will never get. Because one of the attributes as far as government is concerned, he has never gone against the government. I remember he used to call me in my language, Intalguda. Intalguda means msichana mkubwa. Yeah? Clearly meaning that he was respecting the authority. I remember he discussed in confidence about BBI with me before he was taken ill to Turkey. But I'm not going to say it here. I have shared it with the relevant authority. We must, as a country, do something in remembrance, in honor of Senator Yusuf Haji. Finally, I know a lot is going to happen as far as North is concerned, and Northeastern is concerned, but I hope, because Senator Haji stood for almost everybody, especially for Northern Kenya, he had a lot of respect for everybody. Even during formula revenue sharing debate, even when he was sick, he will call me and ask me, Fatuma, if you tell me come, I'll come. And he was sick. Yeah? He is that kind of a person. But let me not take a lot of time. I've lost a friend, a father, a mentor. And as Islam or Muslims say, let Almighty God grant him Jannatul Firdaus. I thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator for Nairobi, Senator Sakaja Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, unlike many who've spoken, for the longest time, I only read about Senator Haji as we were growing up, as a PC. And I was fortunate to then meet him later in 2011 and then 2012 when I was his party chair. Madam Speaker, it was interesting because at that time he was 72 and I was 27. And it was just the numbers that were inverted. And him together with Senator Gigi Kariuki made a habit of having lunch with me once a month because they were guiding me. You can imagine chairing a party of people older than your father and your parents. It was very tough. But he really encouraged and mentored me during those times. I remember many people had said these young, inexperienced guys will make us lose, but he encouraged me. I remember after, in 2014 August, and that was after the election, after we'd come to Parliament, I was in the National Assembly, and he was in the Senate, him together with Senator Musila, who were very close friends. In Washington, D.C., they called me and said, come, let's take a walk. And we took a walk and they sat me down at a restaurant. I remember we were having tea, and he was having olive oil with his bread. And he said, the first thing we'll tell you is do this frequently. It is good for your body, the olive oil. And they told me between the two of them, they've served Kenya for 100 years. I said, what do you mean? They said, yes, 100 years. Senator Musila, 50. Senator Haji, 50. And he said, I have been his boss. At the time, Haji was Musila's boss. And then Musila has been his boss after. When he was minister, he was the assistant minister. And told me these things change. Sasa we kijana, in quotes, let me tell you, tell your fellow young men in parliament to stop going fast. There is no speed. It is not a race, it is not a sprint, it's a marathon. Hold your horses. I got a lot of advice in the subsequent years from him, and also with the late Gigi, who I also thank so much for that mentorship. Later we met here in the Senate, and as Senator Murkomen said, Senator Haji had refused to chair the Committee of Security. But he was told that he has to chair it. but he was told he'll be given a helper. And that is why I was the only person who's the chair of a committee and a vice chair. He was told, don't worry, kuna kijana mdogo, in quotes, sorry, I'm using Kiswahili, who will do the running around for you. And you remember when Senator Haji was busy with BBI, I literally had to run 2 committees for close to 2 years. Madam Speaker, Senator Haji was trusting. He allowed me the leeway. He encouraged me. If even the times when I was chairing and he would come, yet as a chair, he would tell me later, you know, change that. But in private, he would never admonish me in public. And I've learned a lot from him. He was very humble. He was very stylish with his Ray-Bans goggles and his white trousers. You know, even at his age, he had a good fashion sense, you know, and his white suits. Madam Speaker, I just want to say that we have lost a father, a friend, a mentor. And I want to encourage the older politicians here. Please, a candle does not lose its light by lighting another candle. Mentor other people, hold their hands. As I finish, I just want to reiterate that indeed, even when you had to take a stand on the revenue formula, and he'd come here at 1, despite being unwell, and sit and wait for 2:30, that it is not easy, it was not easy for him or for us, for many of us to go against what we felt the president wanted. But we did it with humility, we did it by being steadfast, and I'm sure ultimately people came to understand. It's not something to be proud of that we went against. It's not about going against. And he told me, you know, when you're doing the right thing, don't worry about people misunderstanding. If your conscience is clear and your heart is right, do it. They will understand later. On behalf of the people of Nairobi and my family, may his soul rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Kirinyaga Ibrahim? Amanda, okay. So the next one is Senator Mohammed Mohamud.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Let me thank the leadership for bringing up this important motion to pay condolences to our fallen brother, the late Muhammad Yusuf Haji. Madam Speaker, the late senator was an elder brother, a friend, and a colleague. Madam Speaker, as a person from the region of Northern Province, the late Yusuf Haji was a beacon of hope, and in fact, he lit a candle in that region by the sort of work that he had done for this government. Madam Speaker, the late Yusuf Haji worked in difficult circumstances. His first job was a DO in Northeastern Province, in my home county, under the Shifter War. Difficult as it was, he left a lot of good memories with the people of that region. Madam Speaker, he rose through the ranks to become a PC, and of course later a member of parliament and also a minister. And those of us who worked in the civil service, he served as a role model for us. So Speaker, the like of Senator Yusuf Haji is what made us in that region be part of this government. The trust that the government of Kenya had in him, the loyalty with which he served this country, the sort of mistrust that was between the government and that region at the beginning, is people like Yusuf Haji and General Mahmoud and the rest who may actually be included in government during President Moi's time. We will forever remember him. Madam Speaker, Senator Haji was a lovely person. He was very modest, as people say, but he was also very tough in his actions. We related very well with him. I personally, in the 10th, 11th, and also the 12th Parliament, he was our chair of the PG from Northern Province, and he gave us a lot of guidance in terms of issues of the community, peace making, both locally and also internationally in our neighbors in Somalia. The role he took actually is unprecedented. Madam Speaker, Senator Yusuf Haji lastly served as a BBI chairman, and I would like, as I said yesterday, that the BBI was supposed to bring people, Kenyans together, and I will ask the Kenyans to come together and emulate the character of Senator Haji, his character of bringing Kenyans together, and BBI should not divide us. I think I don't see the reason why Kenyans are quarreling a lot about BBI. It's the constitutional amendment, which has, no serious consequences of the country, no serious consequences of the people. But for us in the region, it's got some consequences because, my only worry is that the Article 203 of the Constitution has got some negative impact on my own, in our own region. But having said that, I think it is no reason for us to fight. For us to pay tribute to him, let us emulate the sort of peacemaker he was, the seriousness with which he served this country, and use BBI to unite Kenyans and not to divide Kenyans. Madam Speaker, Senator Yusuf Haji will be remembered for the seriousness with which he served this country, the loyalty he had for successive administration, and the seriousness with which actually he served his people also as a senator for Garissa County and also as an MP for Ijara. We wish his people well. We condole with the family, Nuruddin and Abdul and the rest of his sisters, their sisters, and the greater family of Yusuf Haji, because it's a large family. We condole with the people of Garissa County, people of Ijara, and also the people of Northeastern Province. Those of you who don't come from that region, please emulate Yusuf Haji. The loyalty of our people is undoubted. Kenyans will respect Northeastern Province, and in fact, whatever issues we have, let us be thought of as this country, and the people of Yusuf Haji should actually, make sure that because at every occasion, people talk negatively about that region in terms of resource sharing, in terms of our, security challenges, in terms of loyalty. Still, there are some people in this country doubting us. We are part of this country, and we are not going anywhere. We are nobody's guest, and I think our brother Yusuf Haji was a good example. With those many words, I condole him. May Almighty Allah rest him in peace and admit him to the highest of heavens, as God promised. Those of us who have a difficulty with him in terms of maybe he alikosea kidogo hapa na pale, I'm sorry for the language. Please, let's forgive him and beg God that he rests in peace. May Almighty Allah rest him in peace. Amen.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Cheruiyot. Aaron Kipkirui.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to join the rest of my colleagues in eulogizing a great man, somebody we had the rare pleasure of serving with in this House for 2 terms, Mr. Speaker, unlike our senior colleagues who have had the chance of knowing him, including yourself, Madam Speaker. Earlier on when you mentioned that you knew Senator Yusuf Haji in 1983, my colleague here, Senator Falada, was quick to remind me that I had not even been conceived. So that's a disadvantage of being young amongst great people like you, Madam Speaker. But Madam Speaker, I'd wish to be quick because I understand the pressure of time and what our colleagues want to say. Earlier on today, Madam Speaker, when his son Abdul spoke to us and told us that in his last days before he lost consciousness, that the senator actually wrote a resignation letter because he felt it wasn't right for him to continue receiving salary. Sorry? Wanted to, yes, that's what I've said. Sorry if I didn't mention it well. That the senator wanted to write a resignation letter because he felt it wasn't right for him to continue receiving salary as senator yet not serving the people. Many people were surprised, but I was not, Madam Speaker, because that is a senator I know. Madam Speaker, last time, let me tell you a story that confirmed and came clear to my mind when his son was speaking. We had a dispute, the normal disputes that we had between us and National Assembly. And at one time, it was a time like this when you were handling the budget policy statement or maybe division of revenue. And there was a proposal that was brought to this House. We were seated in our Kamkunji. Then Speaker Ekwe was chairing the session. And we were all gathered here and we were told that the long-drawn battle between us and the Assembly was about to be brought to an end by executive offering, I think it was about 300 or 500 million, but only under one condition, that we had to spend that money within 2 months, because it was almost towards the end of the financial year. So many of us, we spoke excitedly and said, okay, we're toying here with ideas, what can we do with that funds? We could maybe buy motor vehicles to be used in the county for oversight purposes and many such things. But when it got to Senator Yusuf Haji's chance to speak, Madam Speaker, with his authoritative voice, he told us to our faces that banish that thought. Don't ever imagine that you can use public funds in the way that I have heard many of you speak today in this House. And he was so furious, Madam Speaker, to the point that he said, if you dare take this money, I will go to the public and I'll issue a press conference against you. And you know that I am known everywhere in this country. Let us see who will elect you back into this House if you dare take that money. That was the end of that story. We never picked that money. We ended that Kamkunji and agreed that if the executive wanted to sort that issue of oversight fund, then we better be provided with a proper legal framework on how to use those funds. That is Yusuf Haji, the man, Mr. Speaker. And so, for many of us that are young and starting off our career at this time, such privileges that God extends to us to be seated in such a room with men who have served this country with distinction, then it affords us the opportunity to learn and look at the lives that they've led. At times such as this, when you're reflecting and hearing testimonies and tributes from people who have known them throughout the decades and know that indeed it is possible to serve your country with distinction and stand firm even amidst all the difficulties that you may face. So on behalf of the people of Kericho, Madam Speaker, where he served as our PC, being part of the Greater Rift Valley those many years. Many times you go to functions, Madam Speaker, and I say this not because he's no longer here, but I have said this to him many times, that when you meet elderly people who served with him either as chiefs or as DOs, they'll always, on their parting shot, one of the things they'll tell you is that please pass regards to Bwana PC, because to the best of their knowledge, they never knew any other PC. The PC was Yusuf Haji, and Yusuf Haji was a PC to them. They'll pass their message of condolences. So therefore, this afternoon, Madam Speaker, on behalf of such men who are still alive, who served with him and come from the county of Kericho, I do pass their condolences also to his family. May God rest his soul in eternal peace. May it be a great lesson to us, especially the young leaders that are starting out their lives in public life. Serve with distinction like Mzee Haji did. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Masitsa Naomi Shionga.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to eulogize our Senator Yusuf Haji. Madam Speaker, let me start by saying that it is with great sadness and a numerous sense of shock that I learned the death of Senator Haji yesterday. Indeed, it is true that the hour of death cannot be forecast, and we imagine it to be in a distant future. Madam Speaker, when I stand here, to me yesterday was a dark day, and it gave me a lot to think about our senator, whom I had known for the last 3 years, but I had heard of him since I was a child over the radio and other channels of media. Madam Speaker, in Senator Haji, as others have said, in him you would see a father figure. In Senator Haji, you would see an advisor. In Senator Haji, you would see a peacemaker, a mender, and an all-round man. When I look at, or when I went to his house today, it reminded me of the last moment that we shared with him when we were walking to this Senate. And we shared light moments. And his phone, I can say it rang. And when it rang, I asked him, where have you gotten this new model phone? And he told me that if you live and age well, you'll be loved by your generation. And the answer is simply, he told me that I was bought this phone by my grandchildren. What a wonderful answer that he gave me. And to the rest of us that have remained behind, Senator Haji was the chair of BBI, and he has not lived to see the fruits of BBI. But indeed, to us who are here and who will get an opportunity to debate on the same, please let us not shame Senator Haji, but actually live to his promise, because he meant a lot, especially in legal matters, security, and finance. He meant a lot to us. So I just want to say that my condolences to the family of Senator Haji, and let us live to pray for his soul so that God continue blessing his soul until we meet again. Madam Speaker, I want to finish by saying that my prayers to this Senate, we have lost 3 now, and we do not need it anymore. Enough is enough. Let God hear our prayer. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Senator Auta Frederick Otieno Kisumu.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I stand here with a very heavy heart and sad because Senator Yusuf Haji is no longer with us. Yesterday morning was a dark day for me, Madam Speaker. It was a dark day because, as you know, Senator Haji was the chair of the National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations, and during the elections of our committee, he stood with me and advised the people who are members of this committee to elect me unopposed as his vice chair. And so I've been really looking upon to work with him. But unfortunately, his death now leaves me in wondering what God had planned between me and Senator Yusuf Haji. Senator Yusuf Haji, we met in National Assembly. And as you know, when I came to National Assembly, we've been in the, what we call the opposition side. And I had resisted everything in the name of the government, all the bills that would come at that time. But because of his demeanor, he's such a peaceful man, and a man who loves people would always approach me and tells me, the young man, I know you have a long way to go in politics, but I want you to understand that there is a government, and government is the final authority. That time I could not listen to him, and I was known in that parliament throughout my 2 terms in the National Assembly as a man who'd resist anything, whether it is a bill, whether it is good. And therefore, that brought me to wonder when God brought us together in this house. For a man who has known my track record, and somebody who might not be able to respect the authority, and especially the government, to decide to be his vice chair and advise the entire committee members to vote for me unopposed. And therefore, I interacted with him, and he was telling me why the government must be respected. And he told me a lot of stories throughout his life when he served as a public servant diligently throughout his life, that he has always respected the government. And I told him my story, that when I came to politics, I thought it was going to be a bed of roses. But what I met in parliament was like being in the, somewhere in the dungeons of devils in a house. And therefore, it's a man who is my mentor. He wanted me to reform and be able to learn that I can work with the government, despite all what I've gone through. And therefore, he would advise me as his vice chair, because when we started working with him, he started ailing a little bit. So most of the time he was not chairing, I was chairing. But I remember, because I could see my time there, will add me 1 minute. I remember one day when we had a problem here in the House, when 3 of our senators were arrested, and he was away. Then he told me, remember, I told you the government, the system is always supreme. And therefore, as you chair that meeting, you must chair it in camera. And don't even tell any story. Just share it in camera, and the rest will be able to work out with the cabinet secretary. And I had a lot of
please wind up in 1 minute, because we don't have enough time for everybody.
And therefore, I had a really big challenge to be able to respect that, because I thought we needed to defend our senators. But I remember what he told me, and therefore I did exactly what he told me. And when we came in this house, I would remember Senator Murkomen, and they really busted me. But I want to thank him for being a friend. And as somebody who looked at my heart and thought I could be changed to be a responsible leader who will also always respect the authority. And his last breath, Madam Speaker, we had organized this week to go and see him, but unfortunately that never happened. And therefore, I want to assure him that I will be in that committee, and I will remember his words to respect the government of the day. May God rest his soul in eternal peace. Amen.
Thank you, Senator Stewart Matsayo.
Asante, shukran Bi Speaker. Bi Speaker, kwanza nataka kujiunga pamoja na ndugu zangu maseneta wenzangu waliotangulia kutoa rambirambi zao, na vile vile kutoa pole yangu kwa familia ya mzee Haji. Niko na matumaini na imani kubwa ya kwamba ndugu yangu Nurdin ataweza kuiweka familia pamoja, na sisi kama tukiwa tumepiga magoti tukiombea Mwenyezi Mungu wakati huu wa shida waweze kupita janga hili la kupotelewa ama kumpoteza mzee. Kule nyumbani tunasema mti mkubwa ukianguka vifaranga vya ndege babaika, havijui vitakwenda namna gani. Lakini na imani ya kwamba familia ya mzee itakuwa pamoja wakati huu mgumu, katika sasa hata siku zijazo. Mimi pia na familia yangu nataka kutoa rambirambi zangu kwa familia ya mzee Haji. Mzee Haji kwangu mimi alikuwa kama babangu. Mzee Haji kwangu mimi alikuwa kama rafiki wa karibu sana. Mzee Haji alikuwa mwandani wangu. Yako mambo mengi sana ambao tuliongea kama mwandani wangu, ambao yalinipatia faida sana, vile ambavyo nimejiendesha mimi mwenyewe katika bunge hili la Senate katika mihula hii miwili. Nakumbuka mzee Haji alikuwa mtu wa msimamo kabisa, hususan katika upande wa ugavi wa fedha wa pesa zile tunazopigania hapa ndani ya Senate ili ziende katika serikali zetu za ugatuzi. Mzee Haji aliniambia ya kwamba, mwanangu, nataka nikuambie ya kwamba hivi ni vita, na ikiwa kuna tashwishi zozote, wewe usiwache sababu iliyokuleta hapa ni kwa sababu ya watu wa Kilifi. kufa nao, kuwa na msimamo nao, na usibanduke hata kidogo. Kwa hiyo jawabu kama hilo liliweza kunipatia nguvu sana, na ijapokuwa tulionekana kama ambao sisi tunakosa kueleweka, lakini ilikuwa ni kwa sababu ya kuchukua msimamo, na hususan tukiangalia zaidi, ikiwa mzee Haji anaweza kuchukua msimamo kama ule, itakuwaje sisi wengine kama vifaranga tusiweze kuchukua msimamo? Kwa hiyo Bi Spika, nataka nimshukuru sana babangu Haji kwa sababu alichukua msimamo. Kwa ndugu zangu wa Ijara na wa Garissa, pamoja na wale watu wote ambao mimi nawakilisha katika bunge la Senate, hususan watu wa Kilifi County, nasema tuwe pole sote, na tunaweza kumwombea mzee Haji, japokuwa roho zetu ni nzito sana kwa wakati huu, na kusema tu ya kwamba sisi tulimpenda sana mzee Haji, lakini Mwenyezi Mungu alimpenda zaidi. Sisi bora tu ni kupiga magoti na kuweza kumwombea mzee Haji, familia pamoja, na sote tunajua kwamba hii ndio njia ambayo kila mtu anaenda. Tunasema ya kwamba na kila wakati wote tukiwa tumepiga magoti yetu ni kuombea familia iwe na nguvu kuweza kupita janga hili la wakati huu, kupotelewa na mzee. Naomba Mwenyezi Mungu aiweke roho ya mzee Haji mahali pema penye wema peponi.
Thank you. Senator Olekina Ledama. We are following the order, senators, the way it was.
Can I get the mic? Madam Speaker, I rise to support the motion. The Senate expresses its deep regret and sadness at the untimely death of Senator Mohammed Yusuf Haji of Garissa County. Madam Speaker, the people of Narok County, whom I represent here, recognize him as a person who defended their rights, as a pastoralist, and offers their sympathy and condolences to his family, friends, and the people of Garissa County. Madam Speaker, I would also like to thank the mover of the motion, Senator Orengo, for the historical motion which allows the Senate of the Republic of Kenya to place on record my profound grief and that of my colleagues after the loss of our friend and our colleague. Madam Speaker, Senator Haji was a big man. In fact, when I was listening to the message of condolences from my colleagues, I remembered an incident that happened way back in 1988 when his car broke down on the road and he sought to get a lift from an electrician. And when the electrician did not give him the lift, the electrician ended up being arrested, jailed for 3 months. But that just shows you what loyalty really means and what it means when you're working for a government, the thing that you have to do. I would joke with him about those things. And having said that you have to respect the government of the day, I wouldn't even fault him for that occasion. He was a man with a great heart, Madam Speaker. I remember talking to him about the challenges in the Mao forest. And I remember one day I said to him, my friend, I've seen something closer to your name as one of the beneficiaries of the forest. And he said to me, let me go check and I'll let you know. When he went and he checked, he came and said, yeah, maybe there's something like that. You know, but we'll see what we can do. Madam Speaker, in our day-to-day exchanged inside and outside Parliament. We might not always live to the expectations of everyone, and particularly people of the opposing sides. But we must always be able to respect the integrity and the position of every member. In fact, Madam Speaker, I can say that during the time when we were debating the revenue share, these sentiments that we are all expressing here characterize the kind of leader that the deceased was. He's a person who respected the government of the day, but when it came to respecting the will of the people, and particularly the pastoralists, he stood firm and he said, I will forever fight for our people to be able to get resources. That was a friend. And Madam Speaker, I always say a friend in need is a friend indeed. Our counties were losing money. He came together, we all came together, and we made sure that we fight for what we believe in. Madam Speaker, in that spirit, I would like to end by saying this. I hope that the proponent of BBI will remember that aspect of the revenue share that the late fought so hard for, so that it does not continue dividing this country, and for all of us to be able to move together. I wish the family all the best during this time, and I want to assure them that Kenya, and particularly the people of Narok, are praying with them and wishing them all the best. May the good Lord rest his soul in eternity.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Iman Falhada Deko. And please, if you can save a minute each, it will allow everybody. I can see there are 2 members who might not get a chance. So reduce from 5 to something like 3 or 4. Thank you. Senator Iman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to eulogize with the family. Mzee Haji was a father, a mentor, a friend, my best friend, and I'm going to miss him in this house. He taught me a lot, Madam Speaker. Beside him being my senator, he was a relative too. And I came, despite us coming from Garissa County, I came from Ijara as well, and he is a relative. Madam Speaker, Mzee Haji, words cannot describe him. He was a humble man, he was a respected man, and a very quiet man who doesn't like to hurt no one, and he likes, he's a peace maker. He makes everyone happy. He tried his best. And despite him being, he's very authoritative, the way the rest of the senators said. And I remember, Madam Speaker, during the revenue sharing, the nominated senators had a showcase letter. And I remember he sent my sister, Senator Halake, to go and pick me from the extension when the COVID restriction was there. And then when I saw her coming for me, and she said, Mzee was looking for you, and I was like, no way, because I've got a showcase letter, which, I don't know what to do. But he gave me that authority to vote for the people of Garissa, and he told me what his stand will be, and I should follow that, which I did, despite the intimidations and, whatever, because he said, whoever does anything to you did anything to me as well. Madam Speaker, I thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Langat Christopher Andrew.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for also giving me a
minute also.
I doubt that one. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to eulogize this very particular great man. I want to begin by saying that Senator Yusuf Haji was a selfless man. He loved everybody, and you're a witness, Madam Speaker, that when he was a member of Education Committee, all the time we nominated him to travel outside the country, he would give his chance to somebody else. He was such a good man, and I want to say that we learned some good things about him. One also is that he was a great time manager. more often than not, we found him seated in the meeting waiting for us, and we would always encourage us that you are still young and you're wasting time. So we learned a lot on matters, time management, from him. Another thing that I learned from Senator Yusuf Haji was the fact that he loved so much physical exercises. I remember when we were in Mombasa one time on a conference, that every morning you would find him working, and he would tell us that it was his routine to walk 10 kilometers every morning. He was a great man, and I want to say that I want to concur and support what the president did in Kisii by renaming Gusii Stadium Simon Nyachae Stadium. And I would like also to say that by extension, we also would like as the Senate to encourage the executive, even ourselves, that we would come up with something so important, a name after him, so that we may remember him for a long time. So the Karisa people, the people from the Northeastern, I would like to urge you, and even us in Rift Valley. Remember, he is the longest serving VC in Rift Valley, who served diligently and gave most of us an opportunity to realize peace in the Great Rift. If the assembly of Nakuru County would also come up with something, even a very good street, and named after him, our children in future would ask who was this man, and we shall be able to narrate to them that there lived a great man by the name Yusuf Haji, that his achievement actually are so great that needs to be remembered for a long time. Lastly, Madam Speaker, remember, one time as Jubilee senators, we went to State House to request for oversight funding, and he was the man whom we had nominated to represent us. Though we might not benefit because of the time, I would like to request the executive to honor that oversight funding on behalf of this man who was requesting on our behalf. May his soul rest in great peace, and may his soul live forever in the hands of Almighty God. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Mbogo, George Ochila Yako, please save 2 minutes for us.
Well, I'll try, but I don't want to guarantee. Now, thank you, Madam Speaker, and thanks to leadership for bringing this motion. This is a very important motion. Madam Speaker, you have noticed lately the bad manners politicians have in funerals, where they pretend to be going to condole with families. They pretend to be going to mourn with friends and those who are gathered to give a dignified send-off to their beloved ones. But they fight, they abuse one another, and they do such things. So for the leadership to have thought of this opportunity where we can somberly and where we can, in a very dignified way, speak about our colleague, I think this is something that deserves an accolade and should be part of the tradition here. Madam Speaker, I want to say two things because many things have been said. But before I say them, I want to bring my condolence and the condolences of the people of Migori. They knew Senator Haji. They loved him. He was an ideal citizen, and all of them have been motivated and inspired by his life and the way he carried himself. Madam Speaker, I want to speak about loyalty. It has been mentioned here that Senator Haji was without a doubt a very loyal public servant, an elected public servant loyal to leadership and government, an appointed public servant loyal to leadership and government. Now, some of us, particularly politicians, who are big-headed like I used to be when I was a younger one, and we served with him in this house, we didn't believe in issues called loyalty, and we thought that if you are so radical, you are admirable. Madam Speaker, loyalty breeds trust. If you are loyal to leadership, leadership gets to trust you. And when you are trusted by leadership and you are a forthright and straight person like Yusuf Haji the late, you can influence leadership. You can influence leadership positively, and you can actually be a catalyst for change. So let us all know that loyalty is not a negative thing, and loyalty will earn you trust to the people who put you in positions. And if you are a straight and forthright person, you will use that opportunity to positively influence those people. And I want to say that Yusuf Haji exhibited leadership to the regime of Kenyatta, to the regime of the late Moi, to the regime of the current Kenyatta, and he also was quite loyal to his people, and that is something that is worth admiring. I also want to say that this country has been a divided country, particularly along religious and cultural lines. And the late Haji, coming from an Islamic background, Somali background, and the tension that had been there between Kenya and Somali made him suspicious, and his community be suspected of being disloyal to this nation. Madam Speaker, in 2009, I sat somewhere and I was watching the funeral of the late Michael Jackson, and I remember the eulogy of Michael Jackson that was given by Reverend Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton said that Michael Jackson was the first person to have introduced black culture, to have introduced black talent to the international stage. I believe the service of Yusuf Haji has brought trust and unity to this religiously diverse country. And I believe that to the Muslim brothers and sisters who we have here, if you can serve so well as Yusuf Haji served, and to the Christians, if you can do similarly, all of us will minimize the suspicion we have among ourselves. I want to rest my condolence and say and ask God that may his soul rest in eternal peace.
Thank you, Senator Ali Abdullahi Ibrahim. Please save us a minute.
At long last. Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a long story, so first and foremost, because of the time, I am afraid that my time will not be enough. I wish to start by my condolences to the family, the people of Garissa, and the country at large. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Yusuf Haji was a gentle, humble, and a very good man at that, if I may say that. As it has been said, one time in 2002, when we were traveling together as members of parliament, we went to Elwak, where he was brought the, the book, which he signed in 1965 when he was DO. He visited Elwak Health Center, dispensary at that time, and they brought us the visitor's book, which he signed. So this is somebody who has been working from that time to date, and I was privileged to have been with him from that time, from 1998 when he joined Parliament to date. Madam Speaker, there's a story I will never forget. One time when I was a member of Parliament some times back, and I decided to support, that's when President Moi was still in power, I supported a motion which was to change the calendar of Parliament. And that was supposed to be a constitutional change just after the formation of the PAC, that we wanted to change the calendar of Parliament so that PAC decides when Parliament convenes and when not to convene, instead of the way it was the executive. And when I just came from outside somewhere that morning, and when I came and I saw a motion by Honorable Olo Aringo, which was asking that we support that the calendar, and I supported it, and I was summoned to State House. And we went with him, Madam Speaker. When we went to State House and met the late Mzee Moi, The Mzee Moi just asked me, are you the one, do you think you are the one who says that I cannot take care of this country? And I was really afraid. I told him, Mzee, you have been there for 24 years. Then the Mzee laughed. Then he said he wanted to talk to somebody. It was Sari Kosgei. Then he did, he called, 4 numbers without SIM. Then I told him, Mzee, umepiga inne. The Mzee Haji, Allah Rahma, carried me out of the office. I didn't know he was calling a hotline. I didn't know anything called hotline. Kumbe, he was calling hotline to Sali Kosgei. And I was telling him, because the numbers I knew were 6, and he dialed 4. So I told him, we have done 4. And the Mzee, I don't know how he carried me. That is how loyal he was. And when I told him, why are you doing this? He told me, how can you talk to the president like that? So that is somebody who respected leadership and respected the government that way. I was given a story one time that when he was appointed a DC to Kiambu in 1978, the DC who was there, who happened to be from the family of the president, refused to vacate office. Over the weekend, he went there, dealt with the Askaris APs, everything of the DC was removed from the office, from his house, and it was parked in a vehicle, so that when the DC came on Monday, Haji had occupied everywhere. So that's how tough and how he knew if he came back and said, the guy has refused to go, he will be told, we'll look for you somewhere else to stay. So because of the way DCs were prestigious, he had to deal with the APs and promote several of them in the absence of the DC. And he was able to do that so that he occupied the office. And that is somebody who knew what he wanted and will do what he wanted that way, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the only thing possibly this government can do for Yusuf Haji is to create Ijara constituency. Give it another constituency for the BBI. I will not talk much about the BBI, what he did or what he did not do. But whatever the government can do, they can do anything. Even if it is an amendment after the referendum, creating another constituency for Ijara will be something which will be very helpful for the people of Ijara, and they will be very grateful. The president today said in his residence that he was going to name somewhere in Nairobi and also Garissa in his honor. But I will urge the president also to look into that later after the referendum, Madam Speaker. That will be, and there's one thing he used to tell me. He used to tell me that you are supposed to be.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Rose Nyamunga, I don't see her. May I give that chance to Senator Ongeri Samson?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Let me also add my voice to the loss of a great friend. Senator Yusuf Haji, we worked together in many situations, right from the time of Mzee Moi, the President of the Republic of Kenya, through the time when we had some difficulties in 2007, 2008, and became the Minister for Defense, and I was the Minister for Education. And we had several issues that were bothering him at that stage. And it was during his tenure and my tenure in the Ministry of Education that we were able to create a very special relationship and develop a policy on nomadic education, and which was so critical and important for the people in the Asal regions. And I remember him for that. Secondly, during that period of time, when we were in Kanu, I think we did a lot in terms of free milk distribution to schools and various places, and particularly his interest. And I noted that one of his major interests was one of peace. And we struck a common note, because that's also equally my interest, that he was so much interested in anything that will bring about peace for this nation. And even when we had very volatile situations developing in the country, we'll always compare notes, and we always move to the level where it needed them to hear the alternative view on how this issue can be resolved. And I can say behind the screens that a lot of issues were resolved that ended up amicably without placing this country into jeopardy. He did a wonderful job as the PC Nakuru, and that is not in doubt whatsoever. And when he decided to join politics, again, he did a wonderful job in his ministerial appointments as a cabinet minister. And we were together for all those years that he was a cabinet minister, I was also a cabinet minister. And I remember his contribution, particularly in the docket of security, having been an old hand in provincial administration and the sensitivities of security nature of issues, both in the Rift Valley and in the northeastern. It was quite easy for him to handle these dockets, and no wonder President Moi put him in a very sensitive docket of the Ministry of Defense and subsequently in the provincial administration. We've seen a man, even in the Senate, when issues have tended to break this Senate, he's been one voice that has always stood firm and clear on how this must proceed. And it's a tragedy that we lose such a person in such an hour and such a time. And for me, it's been a double tragedy, because a triple tragedy, because only yesterday that we buried another great man in the name of Honorable Simon Nyachai, who also worked in the provincial administration before he scaled his interest to politics and subsequently served in the cabinet. And all of us at one time were in the same cabinet. And only again, a few hours later, we hear about the death of Honorable Yusuf Haji. It was heartbreaking. It had to make me fly from Kisumu this afternoon to be able to join in this eulogy of mourning a great man. And in the same vein, let me also say that we have lost another very important member of parliament for Bonchari, Mzee, the Honorable Oro Yoka. We lost him last night again. And this month of February seems to be a very catastrophic month. And we mourn and we send also condolences to the family of those who are bereaved, particularly the Honorable Member Oro Yoka, and also the family of Mzee Yusuf Haji. And I know him as a very straightforward player, and nothing will come in between him and the truth. So let him rest in peace. I thank you, Madam Speaker, or Mr. Speaker now. Madam Speaker.
Senator Haji Faria Ali.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I wish to also condole with the family and send my condolences to them. I know that no amount of condolences or words can take care of their pain. We know they are in a very, painful period, and I wish that Almighty God will ease their pain. Madam Speaker, Senator Yusuf Haji, as we used to popularly call him Baba, because of the fatherly figure that he provided for everyone, in whichever political side you belong, you always knew that you could count on him, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I think the shoes of Senator Yusuf Haji are too big for any of us to fit in. And I pray that by the time we leave this world, we will have achieved even half of what he was able to achieve in terms of public service and public good for betterment of everyone in this country and the world over. Madam Speaker, I also had a personal experience with Senator Yusuf Haji. There was a brewing clan conflict.
Samahani, Mheshimiwa Farhia, ni Mheshimiwa Speaker, sio Madam Speaker.
Sorry. Mr. Speaker, I had a personal experience with Senator Yusuf Haji, whereby there was a brewing conflict within my community in Wajir that I didn't know what to do about it. And I approached him and I said, this is what is happening. And I even gave him a clip of somebody speaking. And I told him, can you bring us together, the two of us, so that we speak about this issue, one of the other leaders. And he told me that will bring confrontation. He doesn't want to do that, but he wants to solve this problem for once and for all. he said, I will not even tell the person you're the one who sent me this clip. I will manage this my own way. And there's also another interesting thing that he told me, Mr. Speaker, that it is easy to start a clan conflict, but it is very, very difficult to contain once it escalates. And true to his word, Mr. Speaker, Senator Yusuf Haji must have spoken to that person, or whatever happened, because he only told me that problem, consider it done, without him telling me the details of how he handled that. So, Madam Speaker, that shows somebody with a lot of wisdom, Mr. Speaker, somebody with a lot of wisdom, and somebody who can handle conflict easily, especially in our region where there is, because of scarcity of resources, there are always conflict. Senator Yusuf Haji will be missed greatly by my community and any other community, pastoral community that had conflict among them, Mr. Speaker. And then, and that thing disappeared. I have never heard about that issue again, and those communities lived together. Up to today, there is no problem. And then he also had a fatherly figure. Sometimes you feel like, you know, you achieve something, and he acknowledges that you have achieved that and encourages you to do so, just like any other person, father would do for their sons or daughter. He was also a team player, Mr. Speaker. It didn't matter, you know, whatever that he believed, he would support it to the core, especially where government business is concerned. He would always support, most of the time. Mr. Speaker, for people of Northern Kenya, we have lost 33% of the elected senators in this house in just one person, because we are only 3 counties. So you can imagine how much great loss we are facing as a region. Mr. Speaker, finally, I pray that the Almighty God will forgive his sins and grant him the highest ranking paradise, Jannatul Firdaus, and all said and done. There is everything, everything we do, I think we need to learn from him that you do with thoroughness, eagerness, and the best way to tackle a problem. That was Senator Yusuf Haji for you. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Farhia, ingawa umeniita Madam Speaker mara nyingi sana hata baada ya kukosoa, lakini nafikiri kwa sababu ya jazba za kupoteza jazba za kuweza kumpoteza mzee wetu Yusuf Haji, ambaye ni mzee wa heshima na taadhima nyingi mno, ambaye hakuwa anaonyesha hisia na alikuwa ni mwaminifu sana kwa ule upande ambao yeye mwenyewe alikuwa anaunga mkono. Alifika mpaka akaonekana kama yeye ndiyo sura ya serikali katika jamhuri hii yetu ya Kenya, kwa sababu tawala zote aliwahi kutumika aidha kama mkuu wa mkoa ama waziri. Kwa hiyo ni jambo ambalo ni la kusifiwa sana, na kwa sababu ya hilo nampa nafasi sasa kiranja walio wachache, Mheshimiwa Mutula Kilonzo.
Kiranja walio wengi ni ambao ni
inalingana na mienendo ya kisiasa.
Mumepungua. Asante. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, allow me to condole with the family of Yusuf Haji and the people of Garissa on behalf of the people of Makueni and my family. Mr. Speaker, we have lost, I don't even think words can confirm, words are enough, as many have said about the life and times of Yusuf Haji. 2, I don't think it's enough, and I want to say this, I don't think it's enough to name a street after Yusuf Haji. I don't think it's enough to name a building after this gentleman. It's not enough. I think we must emulate the public service mantra that was part of his DNA. Mr. Speaker, it cannot be that you want to become a rich person because of public service. That is what are the lessons, that somebody can serve for so long and yet just walk away a simple man. The current public service is that you become a billionaire in public service. That is the current trend. If you are going to follow Yusuf Haji, then we must follow him truly. Number two, yesterday, Senator Wambua and I were left behind after everybody left, after we laid him to rest. This good senator, this gentleman who served in the public service, was laid to rest next to just another ordinary Kenyan. The humility and simplicity of our brothers, Muslim brothers and sisters, is something to emulate for all of us who have made burials a national event, a political event, a fundraising event, and everything else that is not godly. Mr. Speaker, this gentleman requested me at the beginning of this session to be praying in my office. And for the longest time, Mr. Speaker, his mat was in my office. If you see me thriving, Mr. Speaker, it's because of the blessings of Yusuf Haji. Such a humble man that during the formula, Mr. Speaker, and Senator Dulo didn't want to say it, and of course I will not say it because I am sure he told me in confidence of the problems of BBI he mentioned to me, and I will not say it here, but I'm sure the powers that be know that he had some objections about some of the things that were done in the BBI report, and it's fair to say so. Number two, when the 2-3 senators were arrested, and I want to correct Senator Uta, the only reason why he kept media away from that committee was because there was an allegation against one of the senators that he did not want to be made public. That was the reason. And he confessed that to me in my office. The third one, he also confessed to me that the reason that we had problems between in the arrest of the senators is a disconnect between the DCI and DPP. He said that also openly. So if we are going to remember Senator Haji, can we remember Senator Haji by doing the right thing? Not the politically correct thing, the right thing. But let me say this, in terms of mortality, I, of course, was never privy to some of the ceremonies that are done by our brothers from the Muslim faith. The mortality, the simplicity of just putting that man and the burial rites are something that all of us must emulate. Simple things that were done yesterday. In fact, when I went to the Muslim cemetery yesterday, they were cleaning. There were people collecting papers everywhere. Can you imagine? They are done roads. It's how simple people can do things. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, and my dear colleagues, all is vanity, said Solomon. All is vanity. Vanity of vanities. Can we do the right thing in life and in death? And lastly, to say this, a lot of us came here when we were very young. And I want us to be saying this to our colleagues when they are alive. And I said this when Yusuf Haji was here, before he made a comment about the formula. Let's thank people like Senator James Orengo, Senator Amos Wako, Professor Sam Ongeri, to serve with these people who are twice our age and to gain.
Muongeze dakika moja tafadhali.
And to gain from the experience of these good people who do not treat us as children and treat us as their peers is something we should never take for granted. So we want to tell you, our dear older colleagues, we value your wisdom, we value your wit, we value your advice. Let's say this when you can hear. So that all of us then have matured in this house and are treated as equals because of all of you. And thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the additional minute. May the good soul of this good gentleman, who will never replace, who I watched in Yaliyotokea when I was in primary and served with him, may he rest in peace. You have asked for forgiveness. This man has been forgiven. I can assure you, for the good deeds he has done. Let us pass this Building Bridges initiative in his honor. That is the way to honor him. Because that is what he chaired. He can't have chaired a bad thing. He can't have. He couldn't have. And I'm talking to you, Naomi, Senator Naomi. He couldn't have chaired a bad thing. he would have refused. He never refused. And he went to his grave without saying a single thing that would have split this country. So let us build bridges in his honor. Thank you.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Kiranja, walio wachache nasikia unasema walio wengi, lakini takwimu hazidanganyi. Lakini pia umesema kwamba umemwombea pia dua kwamba asamehewe makosa yake kama vile alivyokuwa akiomba kwenye afisi yako. Senator Naomi Wako.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I stand to add my voice to this very important message as I support the motion. Mr. Speaker, before I give the condolences from the Senate Committee of Justice, Legal, allow me just to say some 2-3 words to condone the family. Mr. Speaker, personally, I knew Senator Haji before I came to Senate, but interacted more with him after I came. We've lost as a country a very important leader, somebody who has always worked hard to unify the country, patriotic, and with all the humility. Mr. Speaker, we are fighting very much over the BBI, but my prayer is that in the spirit of Senator Haji, we will respect one another and reduce the tension that is there today. Mr. Speaker, allow me now to go back to the message as Vice Chair of Committee of Justice and Legal. Mr. Speaker, I rise in support of the motion of condolences moved by the Senate Majority Leader in honor of our departed colleague, the late Senator Mohammed Yusuf Haji. Senator Haji was a member of the Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs, and Human Rights, in which he served with great dedication and commitment from July last year, together with Senator Amos Wako, who is also a member of the committee. Senator Haji contributed greatly to the consideration by the committee of the report on the Building Bridges Initiative, BBI, even during the time when he was unwell. Senator Haji would always send a message conveying his apologies whenever he was unable to attend a meeting. This morning, the committee held a meeting during which members gave glowing tributes to their interactions with and the lessons that they have picked from the late senator over the years. He was indeed a towering figure in our nation's history. Over the 6 decades that Senator Haji served in this nation in various capacity, he remained humble and treated everyone with dignity and respect, regardless of the status or the title you held. Honorable Speaker, the Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs, and Human Rights held a number of sittings jointly with the National Security Committee, where Senator Haji served as a chair. This included the matter of arrests of senators, as well as county boundary disputes, which the 2 committees are still considering. While these were matters that significantly raised passions among senators and members of the public, Senator Haji guided the deliberations with a lot of wisdom, patience, and understanding. He was empathetic enough to ensure that the affected senators could fully ventilate on the experience that they had gone through. One moment I recall is when, at the end of the sitting, when the visitors and the media had left, he took time to patiently explain to senators his actions at a previous meeting where senators had felt that he was too tough with them. Not many leaders of his stature would have the humility to do that, but as has been spoken to by many colleagues, Senator Haji was different. Honorable Speaker, on behalf of the Standing Committee on Justice, Legal Affairs, and Human Rights, and on my own behalf, allow me to convey our heartfelt condolences to the family, friends of the late Senator Mohammed Yusuf Haji, and the great people of Garissa, and may his soul rest in peace. Thank you.
Asante sana, Senator Juma Boy Juma. Isa Boy.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kunipa fursa hii. Niweze pia kuungana na maseneta wenzangu. Mimi pia natoa risala za rambirambi zangu mimi na familia yangu na pia katika watu wa kaunti ya Kwale kwa kupoteza mzee wetu Senator Mohamed Yusuf Haji wa Garissa. Mheshimiwa Spika, kuna wakati fulani wakati mimi tumechaguliwa tumeingia katika seneti hii mwaka 2017 katika seneti hii, mzee aliniita siku moja akanambia, kijana wewe, mimi nimefanya kazi na babako, marehemu babako alipokuwa mbunge, wakati kwa babangu nilikuwa ni mbunge wa Kwale Central, na yeye pia yuko mbele za haki, marehemu Juma Boy alifanya kazi na babangu katika serikali ya hayati Kenyatta, na pia akafanya kazi, ameniambia amefanya kazi na kakaangu mkubwa wangu marehemu katika seneti hii katika ule 2013 pamoja akiwa hapa, na akanambia, na wewe kijana una bahati sana, nimekuwa na wewe katika bunge hili la 12 2017. Kwa hivyo nashukuru sana kijana wewe, na uchukue mwendo huo kama anavyoenda babako na ndugu yako. Kwa hivyo mimi nakumbuka sana maneno ya mzee alikuwa akizungumza, na pia hatutaweza kumsahau mzee, maneno yake alikuwa akizungumza hapa ndani ya seneti yetu. Na jambo la mwisho pia Mheshimiwa Spika kuzungumzia ni kwamba wakati tukingangana wakati wa mgao wa pesa, mzee alikuwa na msimamo mkali sana, na alisema kwamba hakuna kaunti itapoteza hata ndururu katika huo mgao wa serikali, na ni kweli alisimama imara na tukaweza kufaulu sote katika bunge hili la Senate. Mwenyezi Mungu alaze roho yake mahali pema peponi kwenye watu wema. Na pia mwisho nikimalizia, marehemu Yusuf Haji ni lazima katika kumbukumbu yake katika serikali hii ikumbuke kumfanyia kitu kama alivyosema Mheshimiwa Kilonzo, si barabara au nyumba yute marehemu Yusuf Haji, kufanywa kitu cha maana kionekanike katika Kenya hii kwamba huyu alikuwa ni shujaa pia katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Aliweza kuhudumu kama PC, akaweza kuhudumu kama DC, na mpaka amekuwa mbunge, mpaka amekuwa senator, na pia amefanya mambo mengi ambayo sisi kama Wakenya ni lazima tuweze kuwa na kumbukumbu, tumkumbuke. Watu wa Garissa na waombea Mwenyezi Mungu pia nao wawe na subra. Kaunti ya Garissa nayo pia iweze kutenga sehemu, hata kama ni kujenga kama ni hall au kujenga kama ni shule katika eneo bunge la Garissa, ihakikishe kwamba shule hiyo iweze kuitwa jina la marehemu Senator Mohamed Yusuf Haji. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kunipa fursa hii.
Karibu sana Mheshimiwa Alice Milgo.
Thank you.
Kila seneta tapatiwa nafasi, lazima tusawazishe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me this chance to also pass my condolences to the family of Senator Yusuf Haji for this great loss. It is a loss that is so painful. I lost my mother recently, and it is so hard to actually replace that particular loss. Mr. Speaker, I want to mourn this great leader of no mean character, a humble leader, a peace lover, a leader who loved each and every individual, irrespective of tribe or political affiliation, and indeed a leader who is worth emulating. Mr. Speaker, his character and knowledge made him stood out from the pastoral community. That is why he was assigned great and difficult jobs at that very early age, such as being a provincial commissioner for the great and expansive Rift Valley, which was a very difficult area to manage, with a lot of conflicts, a lot of fighting, but he managed to bring sobriety in that particular region. I remember meeting Yusuf Haji in the year 1992 when he had come to commission a school bus and a generator in an institution I led. And during those days, Mr. Speaker, there was what we call CAN youth wingers. Those youth wingers were assigned to institutions, and they were supposed to find out who are not towing the line of the government. In this case, when Yusuf came around, I thought it was a chance for me to actually ask him that they are already, these youth wingers are already becoming a nuisance in various institutions. But then with this no-nonsense administrative ability as well as humility, he managed to sober up the youth wingers. However, at the course of interacting with me, he taught me to be a good listener, to be firm, make good decisions that will not affect each and any individual, and even those youth wingers, and more specifically, respect the authority and the government of the day. A virtue he upheld, Mr. Speaker, until his death. Mr. Speaker, sir, I think many of my colleagues have spoken that maybe some buildings, some roads can be named after Yusuf Haji. But I think I agree with Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. that if even a quarter of our people, a quarter of our politicians, a quarter of our civil servants could in this case emulate the servant leadership that Yusuf Haji actually displayed, I think this country would be a better place to live in. Mr. Speaker, sir, this is a great loss to the Senate. Indeed, that has robbed the Senate, the family, the people of Garissa County, and Kenya at large, of a servant leader, a husband, a father, a great mentor, and in this case, a person worth emulating. I think his legacy shall remain forever, and I'm encouraging my colleagues that in this case we should emulate what Yusuf Haji did. That was a great muse. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Asante sana kwa rangi yako pia ya manjano. Asante sana. Mheshimiwa Kieo Wambua Enoch.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to support the motion by Senator Orengo to eulogize our departed colleague, Senator Mohamed Yusuf Haji. Mr. Speaker, my first encounter with Senator Yusuf Haji was in civic education in schools when we learned about provincial administration and the provincial commissioners. A man who became a district officer in the 1960s and worked through the ranks to the position of provincial commissioner until he retired from provincial administration in 1997. So, Speaker, my colleagues have said that the tradition and the norm of naming roads in honor of departed leaders may not be good enough for the stature and person and character of Senator Yusuf Haji. Perhaps I would suggest, Mr. Speaker, that the best way to immortalize this great hero is to ensure that, first of all, we rename the government school and name it Senator Yusuf Haji Kenya School of Government, because he served in the provincial administration for the longest time, and that is the institution that teaches provincial administration and public administration. And in it, Mr. Speaker, scholars should evolve a doctrine. In other jurisdictions, Mr. Speaker, a leader at the level of Senator Haji will get a doctrine. We would have the Senator Yusuf Haji doctrine taught in the School of Government if we really, really want to immortalize his service and his commitment to the welfare of society. Mr. Speaker, after encountering Senator Yusuf Haji in school, it was a great privilege, a great honor for me to meet him face to face and serve alongside him a senator in this house. Mzee Haji was firm but very respectful, Mr. Speaker. I remember the first encounter that I had with him in service was sometimes in 2018, when the Speaker ruled that the minister, the cabinet secretary in charge of Interior, should meet the committee of the whole and deal with certain issues in this chamber. And when the cabinet secretary came, Mzee Haji, being chairman of the security committee, decided that the media was not going to be allowed in. And so I rose on a point of order to challenge that decision. And Mzee looked me in the eye and said, that decision is final. The Speaker, after the session, I went to apologize to Mzee, Senator Haji, but he told me, no, you don't have to apologize. We just had to do that to protect the image of the Senate. The Speaker, colleagues have said here that Mzee Haji delegated duties to them. But the most important thing he did not do is that he never delegated responsibility. The buck always stopped with him. And for that, Mr. Speaker, we respect him. Lastly, in the footsteps of what Senator Orengo said, Mzee Haji stood for tolerance. He tolerated divergent views. The Speaker, I want to urge us, all of us, that the Speaker, a different opinion on any matter is not necessarily always a bad opinion. It is just a different opinion. Let us tolerate and nurture differences in opinions to build a society.
Samahani, Senator Mhandisi Hargura.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, indeed, we are all from the Almighty, and we all go back to Him, and that's what happened to our brother. And that is the way we are all going to go. Mine is first to send my condolences and condolences of my family and the people of Marsabit County to the family of Senator Yusuf Haji and the people of Garissa. And also, we pray for patience and perseverance for the family during these trying times so that they can go through it. And we also ask forgiveness for our brother. I also like to thank the Muslims who came out to pray for him, because I've witnessed a phenomenon I didn't witness in this country before, where because of the funeral prayer, the whole mosque and the whole of South Sea around the environment of the mosque were all filled 30 minutes to the prayer, meaning people had that kind of goodwill for him. I hope that will be a good sign for him that his deeds have been accepted by the Almighty. Mr. Speaker, as people of Marsabit, we benefited from Senator Yusuf Haji's wisdom. During our trying times, we had clashes in 2013 in Moyale, and the President, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, appointed Senator Yusuf Haji and former Speaker Ole Kaparo to mediate. And I saw what leadership was that time, when he brought the elders from warring communities and told them that they have to sit down and talk to each other, and they are not going to leave that room until they came up with a solution. And that is when the 35 members Elders Committee was formed, and that is how the clashes in Moyale ended. And personally also, I had experience serving with him in the last Senate in the Committee for National Security and Foreign Relations. And I had the privilege of watching actually and following two elderly senators, Senator Gigi Kariuki and Senator Yusuf Haji, when we were discussing on even visiting Kapedo, Laikipia during the clashes. And you could see in them, sitting just watching them, you could see what this country has gone through in terms of democracy and all that. To them, it's like we are not taking our responsibility seriously. There's a kind of a lot of liberalism, even in the way we conduct our things. There were people who went through a system where decisions were made and followed, unlike now where leaders can make decisions, they can make statements and nobody follows. Also, even internationally, I had the privilege of traveling with him to Tehran as the chair. He was the chair and I was a member of that committee. You could see also how he was dealing with the international relations in terms of talking to those foreign countries. You could learn a lot from them. I learned a lot from him by interacting with him, and I think that gives me an insight as to what leadership was and what it is now, and what we need to take into account as leaders so that we can deliver our services to our people. Lastly, his focus for representation of the people of Garissa is very clearly stated. And when it comes to even the BBI issue, I heard what Mutula said, that much as he was the chair, he had reservations. And I believe among the reservations is the introduction through the back door of the part of the formula, the one man, one vote, which has been introduced, the capping, which has been introduced. And that is one reason why, as people from northern Kenya, people from sparsely populated areas, pastoralist areas, marginalized areas, we have issues with that BBI, because what we fought for 2-3 months in this house has been put in a legislation which we cannot argue about the way we have been arguing about the formula. Because to change that constitution, when it goes through, it will be through a referendum like this. Where will we get even that opportunity as people from marginalized areas to convince this country to go to referendum to remove that one clause which says that irrespective of whatever formula you put in, per capita, no county will get 3 times what the least county gets, that's Nairobi. So even if you increase even to 35-50%, so
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Halgura. Sasa hivi nampa nafasi Mheshimiwa wakili mwandamizi mwenye Haji Muhammad Faki.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii kumuomboleza marehemu Mohamed Yusuf Haji ambaye alikuwa ni senator wa kaunti ya Garissa. Mheshimiwa Spika, ningependa kumpongeza Senator Orengo kwa kuleta mswada huu wa kuweza kumkumbuka mheshimiwa mwenda zake Mohamed Yusuf Haji kwa mchango mkubwa aliofanya katika taifa hili. Kwanza akiwa kama afisa wa serikali ambapo alifanya kazi kama DO, kisha baadaye akawa mpaka PC. Na nakumbuka kuna wakati fulani alikuwa anafanya kazi kama PC katika Coast Province, ambapo headquarter yao ama makao yao makuu ni Mombasa. Mheshimiwa Spika, Senator Haji alikuwa ni senator mnyenyekevu sana, na alikuwa ukimuona katika shughuli zake huwezi kudhani kwamba huyu alikuwa ni mtu mwenye mamlaka makubwa, na vile vile alikuwa amefanya kazi kubwa katika serikali yetu ya Kenya. Mimi binafsi niliwahi kuswali naye swala ya alfajiri katika msikiti hapa karibu na nyumbani kwake Westlands, na alikuwa anakuja msikitini peke yake alfajiri bila hata bodyguard. Inamaanisha kwamba alikuwa hana hofu ya jambo lolote ambalo liweza kumfika, wakati yeye mwenyewe alikuwa ana umri wa miaka karibu 80, na alikuwa hana uoga kwamba kuna jambo lolote liweza kumpata wakati ule wa alfajiri. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mombasa pia wakati alikuwa akija kwa shughuli zake za kikazi ama kujivinjari, alikuwa na mpango wa matembezi katika ufuo wa bahari asubuhi, ambapo watu wengi pia tunafanya mazoezi kule asubuhi, na yeye alikuwa akijiunga nao kutembea kama kilomita 10 ama 7 kwa siku ili kuweka mwili wake katika hali nzuri ya kiafya. Na yeye Mheshimiwa Spika pia alikuwa anatembea bila ya kuwa na mlinzi ama bila ya kuhofu jambo lolote linaweza kumfikia mahali kama pale. hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, kitu ambacho tunasoma katika maisha ya Mheshimiwa Haji ni kuwa alikuwa ni mtu mnyenyekevu, mtu mpole, na mtu ambaye ilikuwa kauli yake ilikuwa ni kauli thabiti, kwa sababu ulikuwa uwezi kumuondoa katika msimamo ambao amechukua bila ya kuwa na sababu nzuri za kimsingi za kuweza kubadilisha msimamo wake. Tulifurahia sana wakati tulipokuwa tunapambana kuhusiana na mambo ya ugavi wa rasilimali mwaka jana, tukiwa na Seneta Haji kama mzee wetu katika kikundi kile, na kwa hakika uongozi wake ulionekana kwamba ni mtu mwenye kauli thabiti, na alikuwa si mtu wa maneno mengi, Mheshimiwa Spika, kwamba japokuwa alikuwa anapingana na upande wa serikali kuhusiana na swala lile la ugavi wa rasilimali, alikuwa hakuweza kutoa maneno ya kukejeli wala maneno machafu ambayo yangeweza kuudhi upande ule mwingine. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, somo tunalopata ni kwa Mheshimiwa Haji alikuwa ni mtu mpole, mnyenyekevu, na aliweza kuhudumia nchi hii bila ya kuwa na mambo yoyote makubwa ambayo alikuwa anaweza kufanya. Mheshimiwa Spika, kama alikuwa ni mtu wa kutaka mengi, angeweza kuwa amepata mambo mengi kabisa kutoka kwa serikali kutokana na nafasi aliyokuwa nayo kibinafsi, lakini huwezi kusikia Seneta Haji alikuwa na kashfa ya aina yoyote. Na ndio maana alipochaguliwa kuongoza BBI, kila mtu hakuweza kupinga uteuzi ule, na alifanya kazi kulingana na vile ambavyo alikuwa amepewa kufanya na mwenzake seneta wako. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, wakati tunaomboleza kifo chake, lazima tukubali pia kwamba katika ulimwengu sisi tuko hapa kwa muda maalum ambao Mwenyezi Mungu mwenyewe ametuwekea, na tutakapoondoka lazima tuondoke na sifa nzuri za wale ambao watakaotufuata. Waislamu, Mwenyezi Mungu anatuambia katika kitabu chetu takatifu kwamba kila nafsi itaonja mauti. Kwa hivyo mwenzetu yake ilikuwa jana, na sisi tuomba Mwenyezi Mungu aweke roho yake mahali pema peponi, na sisi ambao tumebaki tuweze kuiga mfano wake ili tuweze kuishi maisha mazuri hapa duniani na kesho akhera tutakapokuwa kwa Mwenyezi Mungu. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii.
Asante sana. Ila sasa hivi kwa sababu muda umeoma, nafikiri tutaongeza huu muda mpaka kila mtu ambaye yuko hapa aweze kuzungumza. Sababu nina majina matatu tu peke yake kabla sijamuita kiongozi walio wachache aweze kujibu. Kwa hiyo sasa hivi nampa nafasi Seneta Abshiro Halake. Ila Mheshimiwa Mwenye Haji, unamaanisha kwamba wale wakora ndio wanatumia bodyguards kwa sababu vile ambavyo umesema kwamba Mheshimiwa Haji hangeweza kutumia. Mheshimiwa Halake, una nafasi yako sasa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a lot has been said about Senator Haji, but for me, as I grieve for Senator Haji, I'm here to honor his life. A lot has been said about his career, but I want to look at his life that is rich in family, rich in friends, and rich in accomplishment. And I'd like to give my condolences, the condolences of my family and that of the entire people of Isiolo, to the family of Senator Haji, and directly to Mama Zainab Mumin, his wife, to my sisters Muraya and her husband Ismail, to my sister Amina Haji and her husband Ahmed, to my sister Zaitun Haji and her husband, retired Colonel, Lieutenant Colonel Ali, to my brother Nurdin Haji, and my sisters Fauzia and Aisha, to my brother Abdul Haji and his wife Saadia Haji, my sister Zulekha, actually my twin sister Zulekha, because Zulekha and I look exactly the same, and therefore I call her my twin sister Zulekha, Zahra and Rukia. As you can see, Senator Haji was father of girls. Today, when the speaker was at the residence of Senator Haji, he told of a story of when there was a bill or there was a motion on rape, and Senator Haji could not hold himself and spoke unspeakable words on the floor of this house. It is because of the pain he feels and the protection of his girls. And his girls are not just his biological girls, it's all of us, the girls and women of this country. And this is why he spoke those words. And those words he said was to castrate in Kiswahili, and it sounded very bad. He said, kata hiyo makende. And the reason why he said that is because he loves the women and girls of this country. I know a lot has been said about his security side, but the humility and the love he has for the women and children and girls of this country cannot even be measured. That is the father I know. Mr. Speaker, this loss is greatest for definitely his immediate family, but we want to express our profound sorrow to Mama and the children because we share their grief. But one thing is that we admire their courage. We are from the house today. All they're doing is accepting God's will and praying. You don't see them crying. In fact, at one point I felt I cried more than them. It's because this is a man of God, has taught his family and brought them up in the ways of Allah, and therefore they accept his will. Mr. Speaker, you know, this Senate is also his extended family. The sadness we feel is for the loss of more than just a colleague and a friend. Baba Mzee Haji was our father, especially for me. He looked exactly like my father. When I came to this Senate, I took pictures of my late father and I sent it to him, but without saying anything. And he said, Baba, ulipata picha zangu wapi? Sorry, I'm just translating directly. And I said, Baba, those are not your pictures. Those are pictures of my father. And so for me, the loss is the loss of more than a colleague. It's the loss of a father. He was my mentor. Mzee coached me, especially when it came to politics. And he would always say, you're in politics, and that you have a future, and you can weave your ethics into the complexities of politics. And that's exactly what he's done. He would be both strong and compassionate. He showed us public service is just not a job. It is labor of love, labor of compassion. And he did it with distinction. We celebrate him. We celebrate his service to this country. But one of the things I remember about him, each time I felt a bit of pride that I have reached, I'm now a senator, I looked at him and I realized I'm only a speck on a speck. Thank you, Baba, for keeping me grounded, because you kept reminding me of humility and the value of being grounded.
Wacha nikupe dakika nyingine moja tafadhali.
Thank you very much. So in the course of my being here, I worked closely with him and relied on him for guidance and relied on him for grounding, because each time I felt, now I know it all, even the order paper is, the standing orders are in my head. I just looked at him. He sat there, humble. And when I know the accomplishments, both in family and in career and in service to this nation, I always reminded myself, Abshiro, you're a speck on a speck in comparison to the giants that are in this house. I'm honored and I celebrate his life. But most of all, I really would like to thank his family, Mama Zainab, and my sisters and brothers for giving him to us, because it's at great sacrifice that he has really accomplished so much, because they must have supported him, but they must have also missed him a lot as he served all of us. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I celebrate my father and look forward to really making sure that his legacy of humility, his legacy of leadership of nerve, because he feared nothing, fearless leadership, will be taken forth by those of us that he leaves behind. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. May Allah put him in the best of places where he's put the best of his people. Thank you.
Asante sana kwa umahiri na ufasaha mkubwa sana kwa kutoa hiyo taarifa. Nafikiri umejieleza, na nafikiri mimi pia naweza kusema kwamba Mheshimiwa Halake Abshiro, pia nyota yako bado inang'aa, bado hujagonga ndipo. Sasa hivi nitampa nafasi Mheshimiwa Seneta wa vijana, Seneta Mercy Chebeni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also condole with the family of Senator Haji and the great people of Garissa County. Mr. Speaker, a lot has been said about Senator Haji. He was indeed a great leader. He was humble, very soft-spoken, but also he was very firm in what he believed in and what he did as a leader. And Mr. Speaker, a lot has also been said about his loyalty and respect to authority, and that is something that a young leader as myself, I can pick from him and learn a great deal from his style of leadership. Mr. Speaker, he was also very respectful. And when it comes to respect, most of the times they say respect is two ways. But when you look at Senator Haji's age and my age, we have a very big age gap. And therefore, you would imagine that I'm the one who's supposed to respect him more. But when I interacted with him, he really respected me as a young leader. And he always encouraged me, gave me guidance, and I really loved that about him. On another important note, which I think I really found it interesting, that he was really great company. There's a time we traveled to Jordan together. We accompanied the speaker there. But during dinner, I was amazed that he would crack jokes. And I found myself laughing at his jokes. And therefore I said to myself, oh my, he's really a great, great company. And I would never imagine that, when I came here as a senator, the first year, I was really, amazed and very respectful, very fearful of him. But when I traveled with him, I realized that, he has a different side of him, that he was really great company. And he loved to crack jokes here and there, and I really admired that. Mr. Speaker, he was very dedicated to his service. I mean, he served the people of Garissa diligently and the people of Kenya at large with integrity. He was made the chairperson of BBI, and I think he took it up because of his passion, his love for this country. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I think he was a true patriot. He wanted the country to remain united and for peace and harmony to prevail. He was a patriot and a servant leader, Mr. Speaker. I think we have lost a great man, a great leader, and I don't think words can even make up for what we will miss in him, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, even as a young person, I think I do not want to take this for granted. I am privileged to serve in this house with very many great young men and women in this house. And therefore, as Senator Junior said, as young people, we don't take it for granted. We, seek your guidance, and you sometimes mentor us, lead us in whatever thing we ask you of. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I really like to take this chance to thank each and every one of them. As a young person in this house, I really have benefited a lot from their wise counsel. And Mr. Speaker, finally, I think I will miss him. I will miss seeing him seated right there in front of me. And then whenever he used to come to the house, he would just do this, a gesture of hello, and I would reply and say, hello, sir, So I will greatly miss him indeed, but I believe that he has gone to sleep with the angels, and may his soul rest in peace. I thank you.
Asante sana seneta wa vijana, Seneta Mercy Chebeni. Umezungumza kama kabisa mtoto wake na ukaelezea kwamba mzee alikuwa pia ni mcheshi kwa tawasifu yako ambao umetupa sasa hivi. Ila tu kidogo Mheshimiwa Abshiro Halake, nafikiri uligusia kwamba Seneta Yusuf Haji ndiye alikuwa wa kwanza kutumia jina scoop, lakini kwa Kiswahili. Sasa hivi nampa nafasi Seneta Pareno Judith Ramaita.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I join the rest to condole with the family of our dear departed Senator, Senator Yusuf Haji. It is yet another sad day for the Senate. We were hit hard last time, just as we were closing the year, when we lost our Senator Kabaka. And here we are again starting the year with another loss of our dear father, the Senator for Garissa. Mr. Speaker, Senator Yusuf Haji, the late Yusuf Haji, was my chair in the Security Committee. And I remember when the first time when I came to attend to that committee, when we started sitting, first sitting, I found him seated there, very punctual, and I was late on that day. And I really apologized, and I told him, you know, to me, you're like my dad. I swear you'll never come in and not find me seated as you walk in to discharge your duties. A duty that I did so dutifully, because I could not imagine him coming in and finding that I'm not present in that committee. I always made sure that I was there on time for the respect, just because of the respect that I had for him. And the fact that he was more punctual than all of us, looking at the age, looking at his age, it was going to be embarrassing for me to even think of him coming in and not finding some of us ready for committee work. Mr. Speaker, at the time when he was appointed to the BBI, he actually told me, Judith, because you always come in on time, in case, because of my duties at BBI, in case Sakaja, because Sakaja then was the vice chair, anytime that Sakaja is not there, please hold brief for me. A duty again I did so happily until he was through with his BBI activities. And by the time Sakaja left, I was still holding in for the person that I really respected and felt like he was like my dad. He was so committed to work. You can imagine if you start your sittings at 9 and he would always be there at that time. And we respected him for that. Mr. Speaker, back then I was in a school, my secondary school was Kipsigis Girls High School. There's a dormitory by the name Yusuf Haji Dormitory. So when we met here, I told him I slept in Yusuf Haji Dormitory, and I happened to have been the patron of an alumni group of Kipsigis Girls. And we were doing a project to do water for the school. And I came to him and I told him I'm going to that school because we want to start a project for water. And I reminded him that there is a time he was so generous that he was named after, that there is a dormitory that is named after him. And he gave me 50,000 shillings. And he told me, please go and make my contributions to that project. He was very generous, very straightforward, and a person that, in fact, his own stature would just call you to respect him wherever you met him. So, Mr. Speaker, we miss him. I always remember a day we went to when there were those Lamu attacks. And we went there as a security committee. And I was telling him, we are so afraid, you know, this place, these attacks are too much. And he told me all he knows is that somebody only dies once and that there's no need for you to be afraid. I am sure that as he went to his maker, he must have gone in peace. We'll miss him, and may God rest him in eternal peace.
Asante sana, Mheshimiwa Senator. Samahani Senator Kithure Kindiki Profesa, kulikuwa na kasheshe ya mtandao hapa kidogo. Tafadhali wacha nikupe nafasi. Samahani tena.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, my heart is burdened to eulogize Senator Mohammed Yusuf Haji, the late Senator of Garissa County. When I joined Senate for the first time in March 2013, I never imagined in my life that I would have the privilege of sharing this chamber with such a distinguished public servant, because Senator Haji, alongside other equally illustrious sons and daughters of Kenya, including the leader of minority who is here, including the late Gigi Kariuki, Senator for Laikipia, former, and senators like Raito Mirungi, my neighbor. We never imagined, some of us, that we will have an opportunity to serve with such great people. But as God had ordained, I had the opportunity for 5 years to serve with Senator Haji in the first term and also in the second term for nearly 4 years. I am forever grateful for the moment that I spent with Senator Haji. Senator Haji taught me that a gifted person is an all-rounder, and God had given him both the hardware and the software of life. The hardware of life, including resolute, focus, resolve, discipline, but he also had the software of humility and mentorship, which all of us here attest to his great mentorship in various ways. He was humble and soft, but at the same time firm and focused in his work. I remember how he would stand up for me when I was the Senate Majority Leader, and I would constantly remind him, Senator Haji, you cannot stand up for me. Why? Number one, you are the age of my father. Number two, I don't think I even measure up to a tenth of the accomplishments you have made. And he kept on telling me until I gave up. He told me, you see, it is not about age or experience. It's about authority. I would even go with him to State House on state functions, and I would see how even the head of state was a bit uncomfortable at the kind of respect and humility Senator Haji would show to authority. So this is a man who God used in a great way to serve this country in the public service, but also in politics as minister, member of parliament, and senator. I remember him, Mr. Speaker, as one of the senators who would stay up very late into the night when we had a motion, a government-sponsored motion, and Senator Haji would never leave the chamber without seeking the permission of the majority leader. I would sometimes excuse him to go and pray, or even stay at a nearby facility like Intercontinental Hotel, and only call him when it was about time for voting. I will forever treasure the time we spent together, and words are not enough to mourn this great man. May the soul of Senator Mohammed Yusuf Haji rest in eternal peace. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Asante sana Profesa kwa hiyo tawasifu yako ya tanzia rambirambi. Sasa hivi nampa nafasi kiongozi walio wachache aweze kujibu.
Mr. Speaker, nearly every senator has spoken in tribute to departed colleague, Senator Haji. And I must say, you know, this cannot be the last word. I think each one of us, even given an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, they will never be short of anything to say about this great man. But I am hopeful that what we have said today in this chamber is a reflection of our thoughts and our appreciation of his commitment and life of service to the nation called Kenya. And I want to conclude by saying that, you know, there have been some remarks that have come to the floor about Senator Haji having some misgivings, particularly about BBI. I know Senator Haji very well. He would never put his hand to something he didn't agree with, and he would never stop from expressing his views loudly, but in the right forum. So I want to end this debate by saying that may the soul of Mohammed Yusuf Haji rest in eternal peace. And I beg to move.
Asante sana. Sasa ningelipenda kupendekeza rasmi kwamba hii hoja ya kwamba bunge la seneti limeweza kutoa rambirambi zake rasmi kutokana na kifo kilichotokea tarehe 15 mwezi wa Februari mwaka 2021 cha Mheshimiwa mwenda zake Mohammed Yusuf Haji, seneta wa kaunti ya Garissa na ambaye amekuwa mwenyekiti wa kamati ya kudumu ya usalama wa kitaifa na pia masuala ya nchi za kigeni na ulinzi, na pia kwamba tuweze kuweka katika kumbukumbu za hili bunge changio zake zote na katika utumishi wa umma ambazo zimekuwa zaidi ya miongo 6, na kuweza kutambua rasmi vile alivyokuwa na hadhi kubwa na heba kubwa ambayo watu walimtunuku, watu kutoka tabaka mbalimbali na katika vyama tofauti, na vile alivyokuwa mtu mwenye maadili na kanuni nzuri, na aliyekuwa amejitolea kuweza kuchukua majukumu yake akiwa mtu mnyenyekevu na mwenye huruma. Na kwa hivyo tunataka sisi kama seneti kutoa rambirambi zetu kwenye familia, marafiki na nchi yote kwa ujumla. Wanaokubaliana na hoja hii waseme ndio, na wale ambao wanapinga waseme la. Wale walio wengi wameweza kushinda. Waheshimiwa maseneta, sasa hivi ni saa 12:51 wakati wa kuahirisha kikao cha hili bunge la seneti. Kwa hiyo bunge la seneti sasa hivi imeweza kuweza kuahirishwa mpaka kesho Jumatano tarehe 17 Februari mwaka 2021 saa 8:30.
Honorable members, the first member on my list here is the Honorable Oundo Ojiambo, member for Funyola. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute on the referendum bill. Everyone in Kenya is anxiously waiting the outcome of this debate for the simple reason of the task ahead of us here in this republic. Honorable Speaker, a referendum, from where I understand, is basically an election to answer a question or to determine a contentious issue. It has happened before, even when it was not expressly stated in the Constitution. In 2005, we held a referendum. 2010, we held a referendum. And many people wonder why we had two successful referendums. Why do we need a standalone bill or a standalone act of parliament to guide referendum in this country? And that talks very well on the mentality of the people of Kenya. People of Kenya have come to distrust the current EIBC. They are not so sure that they can conduct a referendum, a contentious referendum for that matter, because what is at hand is a fairly political issue that we are trying to solve using a referendum. Nevertheless, Honorable Speaker, I must commend the team that prepared the referendum, and probably there are two issues that we need to look at here. Number one, Honorable Speaker, I want to look at the process. The bill as currently drafted, and I want to trust the presentation made by the chair of JLAC on behalf of the chair, was very clear that there are gaps that needs to be looked at. Honorable Speaker, we need to address the process. Once a promoter makes a decision to promote a contentious issue, what is the process that one has to go through to the point when we conclude? Honorable Speaker, and probably the most contentious issue, and I'm afraid the committee did not seem to address itself fully to the issue. How do you verify 1,000 or 1 million signatures? It is provided for in the Constitution, but it's an act of parliament that generally solves these problems. It's unfortunate that JLAC has not come out very clear. The act itself has not come out very clear, and probably the committee report did not also come out very clear. Does EIBC has a depository